Hello, Year 7. Here are the answers to Friday's lesson about tissues and organs. So I did put in yellow here. Today you will need your pencil case and a piece of paper to make notes on. I hope that you gathered that equipment before you began. I also asked you, before you moved on, to recap everything we'd done so far. So I asked you to read this BBC bite-sized page about cells, where it has a video that you could watch. It tells you all about the different parts. It tells you how plant and animal cells differ. There was pictures to remind you what they should look like. There was examples of different size cells. And there was even a practice activity and a quiz if you wanted to take part in those. I hope that you did that revision. If you did, you should have found this quiz easy. What is the function of mitochondria? It is to release energy from food in respiration. I asked you to draw and label an animal cell. You didn't need to say what the parts did, but try and name the parts. Some people drew plant cells, which is where they went a little bit wrong. And I was surprised at how many people saw this next slide with the answer on and didn't go back to make their corrections, but that's okay. Some people did. So 4 parts we were looking for: the cell membrane, the nucleus, cytoplasm, and mitochondria. If you did that revision, you should have easily been able to match up the functions of the parts. So a nucleus is where the DNA is stored and controls the cell. The mitochondria releases energy from food through respiration. Some membranes control what moves in and out of the cell, and cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance where chemical reactions happen. Which part of the plant cell contained that green pigment called chlorophyll? And that part was a chloroplast. And circle the parts that only plant cells have. So we're not looking for parts that are in animal cells as well. So you should have chosen cell wall, chloroplasts, and vacuole. Now, on these slides, I asked you if you could highlight words that you didn't know or you hadn't heard, and that makes it easier for me to explain if I know which words you're struggling on. So we know from our last few lessons that some cells have adaptations, and adaptation is just a feature that makes it better at its job, like a sperm cell has a tail to make it better at swimming. But what do we mean when we talk about tissues and organs? So you are asked to write this green definition down. A tissue is a group of cells with a similar structure and function which work together to do a job. Okay, so if we think of some examples when we're looking at those specialized cells, we talked about muscle cells, which together form muscles, and they work together, these individual cells, to produce muscle tissue. Another example is nerve cells working together to make nervous tissue, like your brain. What is an organ then? So an organ is a group of tissues with the same function. So you are asked to write this down as well. So our body's full of organs. I'm sure that you recognize some of them: the heart, the lungs, the stomach, even our skin, which is the largest organ we have. Ironically, Mr. White gave you an example here, and the words that you didn't know were in the example. So if I give you a different example, if you think of a cell being a Year 7 student, and each individual Year 7 student would work together to form Year 7, which would be the tissue. Okay, similar students together form the tissue. And if we added Year 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 together to work together, that would be like an organ. So the whole of Rysdale would be like the organ, or the students. If we went one step further and added the teachers and the cleaning staff and the caretakers in, that would take us to the next step up, which would be an organ system. If you haven't already guessed, the smallest and simplest thing is a cell. They're the building blocks of life, and then we have tissues, and then the tissues make organs. So if you were numbering these in order from smallest to largest, you should have had 2, 1, then 3. Which of these is the correct scientific definition of a tissue? So you are asked to write this word down, so you should have found this easy enough: a group of cells with similar structure and function working together to do a particular job. Which was the definition of an organ? An organ was a group of tissues with the same function. So based on those definitions that you'd written down, you should have been able to work out on these pictures which one was a cell. So the first picture, the individual cell, was the cell. Which one is an organ? That's the biggest thing. And which one was the tissue? A tissue was a group of similar cells working together. Okay, and then which of these is in the correct order? So if we're looking from smallest to biggest, smallest was the cell, then a tissue, then an organ. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. I'll see you in the next video.